Every year, nearly 800,000 people suffer strokes, but what if you could prevent it? Most strokes are preceded by subtle, easily missed warning signs. Recognizing them early could save your life or a loved one's. Imagine being able to spot the signs before it's too late. In this video, we'll uncover 10 crucial warning signs of mini-strokes in the elderly. Number 7 will shock you. Stay tuned and learn how spotting these signs early could make all the difference. Meet George, a retired craftsman who loved nothing more than spending his afternoons in his workshop, crafting beautiful furniture. One day, while working on a new project, George began to feel off. It started with a strange tingling in his right hand. At first he thought it was just a cramp from holding his tools too long. But then, when he tried to speak to his wife, he found himself stumbling over his words, struggling to finish simple sentences. Confused and frustrated, George brushed it off as nothing, maybe just tired or stressed from the project. But what George didn't know was that he was experiencing mini-strokes, also known as transient ischemic attacks, TIAs. These small strokes are often overlooked, but can be a major warning sign that a bigger, more dangerous stroke is on the way. TIAs can last only a few minutes, but they can cause lasting damage if not caught in time. For George, these small warning signs were the beginning of a much bigger issue that he wished he had recognized earlier. This is why understanding the warning signs of mini-strokes is so crucial, especially for older adults. By identifying these symptoms early, you can take immediate action to prevent a full-blown stroke, which can lead to severe disability or even death. In this video, we'll walk through the 10 early warning signs that George and many others wish they had caught in time. Whether it's tingling in your hand, sudden confusion, or something else, knowing these signs could help save a life. Let's dive into the warning signs you need to watch for. Warning sign number 1, sudden weakness or numbness. One of the most common warning signs of a mini-stroke is sudden weakness or numbness, particularly on one side of your body. This can happen in your arm, leg, or even your face. It might feel like your arms or leg has fallen asleep, but it happens without any clear reason. You might experience it as a tingling sensation, a heavy feeling, or an inability to move the affected part properly. It's often sudden and can last anywhere from a few seconds to several minutes. For George, this was one of the first signs that something was wrong. He was working on a new piece of furniture, and as he was gripping his tools with his left hand, he suddenly felt a strange tingling sensation. It was as if his hand had gone numb, but he had no explanation for it. He thought maybe he was just tired from the long hours spent in his workshop. He shrugged it off and continued working, not realizing that this seemingly small feeling was actually a red flag. If you've ever experienced a similar sensation, you know how unsettling it can be. The numbness or weakness can feel so random and insignificant at first that it's easy to dismiss it. But in George's case, and in many others, this is one of the first signs of a mini-stroke. When it happens, it's essential to pay attention and not ignore it. This feeling can be a result of blood flow being restricted to a part of your brain, which is the hallmark of a mini-stroke. Have you ever experienced sudden numbness or weakness like George did, maybe in your hand, leg, or even your face? It's easy to brush these things off, but they could be your body's way of warning you. Share your story in the comments below. Your experience could help others recognize these signs early. Remember, the sooner you act, the better the chances of preventing something worse from happening. Warning. Sign number 2, slurred or confused speech. One of the most alarming signs of a mini-stroke is slurred or confused speech. It's more than just struggling to find the right words or being a little tongue-tied. It's a red flag. When blood flow to the brain is compromised, it can affect your ability to form words properly, or you may have trouble understanding what others are saying. This could be a sign that a part of your brain responsible for speech is being impacted. Imagine this. You're sitting at the kitchen table with your spouse and you're trying to explain something simple, maybe asking for a glass of water or telling them about your day. But as you speak, your words come out all jumbled. Instead of saying, "Could you pass the salt?" you might find yourself struggling. "Pass the salt? Please." It's not just frustrating, it's scary. You know what you're trying to say, but your mouth just isn't cooperating. For George, this was another sign he brushed off. He found himself having trouble getting his words out while talking to his wife, Ellen, about a project he was working on. At first, he thought he was just tired from working too long in the shop, but this feeling didn't go away. His speech became more slurred, and he began to struggle with forming sentences. It wasn't until much later that he realized this was a sign of a mini-stroke. If you've ever experienced slurred speech, even for a few seconds, it's a scary and disorienting feeling. It can happen so suddenly that it might catch you off guard, and you might not realize what's happening right away. But this is your body's way of telling you that something's wrong. Don't ignore it. Slurred speech, especially if it's accompanied by weakness or numbness, could mean that a mini-stroke is in progress, and the sooner you seek help, the better. And what about that strange dizziness you might brush off as nothing? Let's talk about that next. It could be just as important as slurred speech in identifying a mini-stroke. Warning sign number 3. Dizziness or loss of balance. Dizziness or sudden loss of balance can be an unsettling sign of a mini-stroke. It might feel like you're on a boat or that the ground beneath you is shifting when in reality everything around you is perfectly still. This sensation can throw you off balance, making you feel as though you're about to fall even if you're standing still. For many, dizziness is a common experience and it's easy to dismiss it as something minor, like dehydration or getting up too quickly. But when it comes to mini-strokes, dizziness can be one of the key indicators that something serious is happening. For George, dizziness was one of the first signs that something wasn't right. He was working in his garage, organizing his tools, when he suddenly felt lightheaded and stumbled. He blamed it on the uneven floorboards in his workshop, assuming that maybe he just wasn't paying attention. But the dizziness didn't go away. It came back again the next day, and the next. Each time George tried to brush it off as nothing, thinking he was simply tired or not getting enough rest. But dizziness, especially when it comes on suddenly or feels more intense than usual, can be a sign that blood flow to the brain is being interrupted. When this happens, your balance may be affected, and you might feel unsteady or disoriented. In George's case, this was a warning sign of a mini-stroke that he should have taken more seriously. Think about it. How often do you think dizziness is related to something serious? Have you or someone you know ever brushed off dizziness, only to discover it was a warning sign of something bigger? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. It's important to remember that listening to your body could make all the difference in preventing something life-altering. Warning sign number 4. Temporary vision loss or double vision. Temporary vision loss or double vision can be a concerning sign of a mini-stroke. You might suddenly experience blurred vision, as if a fog is clouding your eyesight, or see double images that aren't really there. This happens when blood flow to the part of the brain that controls your vision is disrupted. While it can seem harmless, this temporary vision problem could be a signal that a stroke is on the horizon. For George, this was another sign he didn't think much about at first. One afternoon, while working on his latest project, his vision suddenly blurred for a few seconds. He tried to rub his eyes, thinking it was just eye strain from focusing on the fine details of his work. He ignored it, believing that maybe he had been staring too long or that his glasses needed adjusting. But the blurriness came and went, and George couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't quite right. It's easy to dismiss temporary vision loss or double vision as something minor, especially if it only lasts a few seconds. You might think it's just tired eyes or a need for new glasses, but if you notice your vision suddenly changing, especially if it's accompanied by other symptoms like numbness or dizziness, it could be a sign that a mini-stroke is affecting the part of your brain responsible for processing visual information. George's experience is a reminder that we shouldn't take our vision for granted. Whether it's blurred vision or seeing double, these are serious signs that require immediate attention. It's important to act quickly if you or someone you know experiences these symptoms. Have you ever experienced temporary vision loss or double vision? Maybe it was just for a few seconds, but did it make you wonder what was happening? Let us know in the comments below. Your story might help someone else recognize this early warning sign before it's too late. Warning, sign number 5, sudden severe headaches without cause. Headaches are a common part of life for many people, but when a headache comes on suddenly and feels much more intense than usual, it can be a warning sign of something more serious. A severe, unexplained headache, especially if it comes on without any obvious cause, can be a sign that a mini-stroke is affecting the brain. These headaches are often described as the worst headache of your life, coming out of nowhere, and can be accompanied by nausea or dizziness. For George, he had never experienced headaches like this before. One morning, while enjoying his coffee, a sudden, sharp headache struck him without warning. It felt like someone was squeezing his head, and no matter how much he tried to relax, the pain wouldn't subside. He thought it might just be from lack of sleep or stress. But this headache felt different, stronger, more intense, and it lasted much longer than any headache he had experienced before. It didn't go away with over-the-counter pain relief, which made George worry a little, but he brushed it off, thinking it would pass. However, intense, sudden headaches without a clear cause are often linked to changes in blood flow in the brain, which can be a precursor to a mini-stroke. These headaches are a serious sign that your brain is not receiving the oxygen it needs, which could be putting you at risk for a larger stroke. If you've ever experienced a severe headache that seemed to come out of nowhere, you know how disorienting it can be. It might feel like a typical headache at first, but when it hits you suddenly and with great intensity, it's something that shouldn't be ignored. If accompanied by other symptoms like vision changes, dizziness or numbness, a sudden severe headache can be a sign that something serious is happening in your brain. Have you ever had a sudden, intense headache with no obvious cause? How did you handle it? Share your experience in the comments below, and remember, it's always better to be cautious and seek medical attention if you notice these types of headaches, especially if they feel different from the ones you've had before. Warning sign number 6, difficulty swallowing. Have you ever felt like food or drink gets stuck in your throat, no matter how much you try to swallow? This feeling can be more than just a nuisance. It could be a red flag that something more serious is happening in your body, like a mini-stroke. Difficulty swallowing, also known as dysphagia, occurs when the muscles in your throat are unable to function properly, which can happen when blood flow to the brain is reduced. For George, swallowing became a struggle he didn't initially understand. One evening, as he was enjoying dinner with his family, he found himself choking on his food more than usual. It wasn't a big meal, but he had trouble getting it down, and it felt like his throat wasn't working properly. He tried to ignore it, thinking maybe he was just eating too quickly, but the issue kept occurring. Sometimes he would feel like his food was stuck in his throat, and he would have to cough or take small sips of water to clear it. Difficulty swallowing is often overlooked, but it's one of those symptoms that can be linked to a mini-stroke. When the brain is deprived of adequate blood flow, it can affect the motor skills needed to perform everyday actions like swallowing. This can be dangerous, as it increases the risk of choking or aspiration, which can lead to more serious health complications. If you or someone you know has experienced difficulties swallowing, don't ignore it. This is another sign that requires immediate attention, especially if it's a new or worsening symptom. Swallowing issues, when paired with other symptoms like dizziness, numbness or slurred speech, could mean that a mini-stroke is underway. If you've ever had trouble swallowing or felt like food was stuck in your throat, share your experience in the comments below. It's important to recognize these symptoms early, as they could be life-saving. And if you're finding this video helpful, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you can stay informed about more tips on staying healthy and safe as we age. Warning sign number 7, brief confusion or memory loss? Have you ever walked into a room and forgotten why you went there? Or misplaced something and couldn't remember where you put it, even though you were just holding it a moment ago? While occasional memory lapses are common, brief confusion or memory loss, especially when it happens suddenly or repeatedly, could be a sign of something more serious, like a mini-stroke. For George, this was a sign he couldn't easily explain away. He was working on his latest project when he suddenly couldn't remember where he had left his favourite tools. He retraced his steps, but the more he thought about it, the more confused he became. By the end of the day, he had misplaced several items: his hammer, a wrench, and even his glasses. At first, he thought it was just a normal part of getting older, a little forgetfulness creeping in. But when it kept happening throughout the day, George couldn't ignore the fact that something felt off. Confusion or memory loss, especially when it's out of the blue or occurs frequently, could signal that blood flow to the brain is being affected. The part of the brain that controls memory and cognitive function can be impacted by a mini-stroke, making it difficult to remember simple things or stay focused on tasks. If you've ever experienced confusion or forgotten things you normally wouldn't, it can feel unsettling. But when it happens more than once in a day, or you find yourself constantly asking, "What was I just doing?" it's important to take note. These memory lapses may seem minor, but they could be a warning sign that you need to seek help. Does this ever happen to you? Have you found yourself forgetting things or feeling confused for no reason? Let us know in the comments below. Sharing your experiences might help others recognize these signs early so they don't dismiss them as just getting older. Warning sign. Number 8. Fatigue without explanation. Have you ever felt exhausted for no reason at all? You've had a full night's sleep, you haven't overexerted yourself, and yet you still feel completely drained. This kind of unexplained fatigue can be more than just a side effect of aging or stress. It could be a sign that something more serious is happening in your body, like a mini-stroke. For George, one of the most frustrating signs of his mini-stroke was the overwhelming fatigue that seemed to come out of nowhere. He'd wake up in the morning feeling like he hadn't slept at all, even though he'd had a full night's rest. Throughout the day, he would find himself struggling to keep his eyes open, feeling weak and tired despite doing normal tasks. At first he thought it was just the result of working too hard or not getting enough rest, but the fatigue wouldn't go away, and it started to interfere with his ability to enjoy his daily activities. TIAs, or mini-strokes, can drain your energy because your brain isn't getting enough blood flow. When the brain isn't receiving proper oxygen and nutrients, it can leave you feeling sluggish, mentally foggy, and utterly exhausted, even when you haven't done anything to tire yourself out. This kind of fatigue is different from the usual tiredness you might feel after a busy day. It's persistent and unexplained, lingering no matter how much you rest. If you've experienced fatigue that doesn't make sense, where you feel unusually tired even when you've rested, this could be a warning sign that your brain isn't functioning at its best. It's important not to ignore it, as it could be a sign of a mini-stroke that requires immediate attention. Have you ever felt inexplicably tired, even after a full night's sleep? Share your experience in the comments below. It's important to recognize these symptoms and understand that sometimes fatigue is more than just aging. It could be your body signaling that something is wrong. Warning sign number 9, brief unconsciousness or fainting. Fainting or brief unconsciousness might seem like a harmless event, something that could be easily brushed off as dehydration, low blood sugar, or simply standing up too quickly. But when it happens unexpectedly, especially in conjunction with other symptoms, it could be a sign of something much more serious, like a mini-stroke. For George, it was a moment that truly shook him. One afternoon while he was out shopping, he suddenly felt dizzy and lightheaded. The next thing he knew, he had collapsed onto a bench in the store. He couldn't remember what happened, but his wife said it only lasted a few seconds. George immediately thought it was just a case of dehydration. After all, he hadn't been drinking enough water that day, and the heat wasn't helping. But fainting, even for a short period, should never be ignored. It can be a sign that blood flow to the brain has been temporarily interrupted, a key indicator of a mini-stroke. Unconsciousness or fainting can occur when your brain isn't receiving enough oxygen due to a blockage or disruption in blood flow. This brief loss of consciousness might last only a few seconds or minutes, but it's enough to indicate that something is wrong. While it's easy to dismiss fainting as an isolated event, when it happens in combination with other warning signs, it becomes clear that medical attention is necessary. If you've ever fainted or briefly lost consciousness, even if you thought it was just dehydration, it's important to recognize it as a potential warning sign. Seek medical help if you experience fainting alongside other symptoms like dizziness, confusion, or difficulty speaking. Have you ever fainted or felt like you were about to? Was it something you brushed off as no big deal, or did it lead to a visit to the doctor? Let us know in the comments below. Remember, your experiences could help others understand the importance of taking these signs seriously. Warning sign number 10, unexplained mood changes or irritability. Have you ever found yourself suddenly snapping at someone for no good reason? Maybe you've felt inexplicably irritable or emotional over something that would normally be no big deal. While mood changes are common as we age, sudden, unexplained irritability or mood swings could be a sign of something more serious, like a mini-stroke. For George, this was one of the most unsettling signs of his mini-stroke. One evening, his wife accidentally spilled a glass of water, and George snapped at her unexpectedly. His reaction was out of proportion to the situation. He wasn't angry about the spill itself, but in that moment, he couldn't control his frustration. Later, when he calmed down, he realized that this sudden mood shift wasn't like him at all. He'd been feeling more on edge recently, irritated by small things that didn't usually bother him. It wasn't until he experienced other warning signs that he began to understand that this emotional outburst was part of a bigger problem. Mini-strokes can affect the part of the brain that controls emotions, leading to sudden mood changes or irritability. When blood flow is interrupted, it can cause a range of emotional symptoms, from anger and frustration to feelings of depression or anxiety. These mood swings can happen without any clear trigger, making it hard to pinpoint the cause. But when you experience unexplained changes in your emotional state, it's important to pay attention and seek help. If you've ever found yourself irritated or upset without understanding why, or if you've had sudden emotional shifts that seemed out of character, don't ignore it. It could be your brain's way of signaling that something is wrong. Combine mood changes with other symptoms, and it's a sign that immediate medical attention is needed. Have you ever experienced sudden mood changes or irritability that you couldn't explain? Let us know in the comments below. Your story might help someone else recognize these signs before it's too late. Thankfully, George's wife insisted he see a doctor after his vision blurred during dinner. It was a wake-up call he could no longer ignore. He'd been pushing through the signs, brushing them off as just part of aging, but when his wife noticed his confusion and insisted on a checkup, George agreed. The tests revealed multiple mini-strokes, or TIAs, that had been happening over the past few months without him realizing it. This moment was a turning point for George. He realized that if he hadn't acted when he did, things could have been far worse. But it wasn't too late. With treatment, medication, and some lifestyle changes, George was able to regain control of his health. He adjusted his diet, exercised regularly, and made sure to manage his stress levels. Over time, George made a full recovery and was able to return to his beloved workshop, stronger and more aware of the importance of his health than ever before. His transformation wasn't just physical, it was a shift in how he viewed his well-being. George learned to listen to his body and take those early warning signs seriously. Today, he's not only back to building furniture in his garage, but he's also living a life more focused on prevention and self-care. George's story is a powerful reminder that recognizing the signs early and taking action can save your life. If you or someone you know is experiencing any of these warning signs, don't wait. Seek medical attention. It could be the difference between a small setback and a life-threatening event. If this video was helpful, Give it a thumbs up and share it with your family. It might just save someone's life. Don't forget to leave a comment below and let us know if you've experienced any of these signs. Your story could help someone else recognize them. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to our channel for more essential health tips and life advice for older people. Stay informed, stay safe, and let's continue living our best lives after 60.